We all know a CPU is crucial for your gaming PC, not to bottleneck your GPU. For that reason, I will show you different budget CPUs that are great value, and on top of that, I will tell you the perfect GPU to pair these CPUs with, and I will also tell you the max GPU I will pair it with. That way, you don't bottleneck your system with a GPU that has too much power for these CPUs. So even if you don't know about PC components, this video will be really useful for you. And these CPUs are for 1080p, 1440p and even 4K gaming if you pair it with the right GPU. You will have all the links to these CPUs down below in the video description with alternatives, and in the description as well you will have a link where you can schedule a meeting with me where I will help you out with your personal PC. So if you don't want to overspend on your PC build or your Prebuilt PC, I highly recommend you checking that out. That being said, let's start. With the first one, we have a tie between the Ryzen 5 5500 and the i3 12100F. In terms of gaming performance, the 12100F is slightly better and almost at the same price, only around $3 more expensive. But the Ryzen 5 5500 comes with more cores, which are going to be useful down the line. So in my opinion, I recommend you more the Ryzen 5 5500 because you also have the AM4 platform where you can upgrade to lots of different options. But going with the 12100F is not a bad option either because you can also upgrade to 13th gen Intel with the right motherboard. So here you really can't go wrong, and both are going to give you a great performance at 1080p and also 1440p if you pair it with the right GPU. I would say the perfect GPU to pair these CPUs with is the Radeon RX 6600, and if you want 1440p performance, I recommend you pairing it with the RX 6600 XT instead. My limit would be the RX 6700 XT or RTX 3060 Ti if you're going to play at 1440p. I wouldn't buy a GPU that's higher end than that, for example the RTX 3070 and above or the RX 6750 XT and above. If your desired GPU is higher end, then I do recommend you upgrading the CPU to the Ryzen 5 5600. This is another 6-core 12-thread processor that is going for around $142. Usually it's a bit cheaper at around 125, 130, but right now it's still a great deal if we compare it with the competitor, the Intel i5 12400F, which yes is slightly better for 1080p gaming, but if you higher the resolution to 1440p, there's basically no difference, and the 12400F is around $20 more expensive. So overall the 5600 in my opinion is a much better option in terms of value. The good thing about these CPUs is that you don't have to buy an aftermarket CPU cooler. The stock cooler is totally fine, so you don't have to spend more money on that regard. Now, in my opinion, the perfect pair for the Ryzen 5 5600 is the RX 6800 or 6800 XT, which both are really good for 1440p high FPS, and you can even start playing at 4K if you wanted to, or the Nvidia RTX 3080, but I wouldn't recommend you buying the RTX 3080 brand new because right now it's overpriced. The limit for this CPU, I would say, is the RX 6950 XT for AMD and the RTX 4070 Ti for Nvidia. And of course, if you're going to play at 1440p or 4K, I wouldn't recommend those GPUs for anything lower than 1440p. And on the 1080p level, you can pair this CPU with any GPU on the market that you like, where the main goal is 1080p. Now, with the last one, we have the AMD Ryzen 5 7600 non-XT version. This is from the AM5 platform, so you have much more upgradability here, and it's not really that cheap. It is much cheaper than before though, so that's actually a good thing. Right now it's going for $230, but like I said before, it offers a great upgradable path to new CPUs down the line that are going to come from Ryzen. You can pair this CPU with really powerful GPUs like the RX 7900 XT or the RTX 4080. That would be the limit in my opinion as well. I wouldn't pair it with anything higher than that, for example the RTX 4090. And at that point, if you are spending a ton of money on the RTX 4090, you might as well spend a good amount of money for like a Ryzen 7 7900X or the i9 13900K instead of a budget CPU. And also, I wouldn't pair this CPU with anything below the RTX 3070 or the RX 6750 XT. So the perfect pair for this CPU, in my opinion, is the RX 7900 XT, where you can get great 4K resolution gaming experience and also high FPS at 1440p, but I would recommend it more for 4K than 1440p, especially because you can get away with way less for 1440p resolution. Also, the 7600 is super power efficient, so if you get the right GPU, you won't have to buy a really expensive power supply. One CPU to consider at this price point as well is the i5-12600K, as it's a bit more expensive and in some cases is better, in others is not, so I do recommend you searching the i5-12600K versus the Ryzen 5 7600 in the games or programs that you wanna use, that way you see the real comparison. Then between the CPU, motherboard and memory, the total platform cost is less than Ryzen, where you have to spend $435 for all three components, and on the AM5 side, you have to spend $447 for the Ryzen 5 7600, a gigabyte B650M motherboard and 16 gigs of RAM. So you're spending around $20 extra. In my opinion, are worth it because of the upgradable path that I mentioned before. However, if you wanna save money and get basically the same performance, go with the i5-12600K instead. Now, if you're still confused about CPUs, GPUs, and all of this gaming world, I totally understand you. I was a beginner once as well, and trust me, the worst mistake that you can make is buying the wrong PC that will not deliver as you want. For that reason, like I said at the beginning, you can schedule a meeting with me where I will literally save you money by giving you the right PC build or Prebuilt PC for your needs and budget. So go click the link in the description if you need help. I'm looking forward to helping you. And if you want a whole PC build with a budget CPU, I recommend you watching my $850 1440p premium PC build that you can get right now for high FPS at 1440p and a reasonable price. You will have that video in the top right of the screen. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.